Back in my room, I let out a sigh. Long day, just wanted to crash. Flipped the switch, but the light didn't cooperate, figured it was a blown bulb, didn't matter much. Moonlight spilled through the window enough to see by. The air felt thick, heavy, like walking into a cold room, but this was different. This was charged. Goosebumps erupted on my arms. I rubbed them, trying to shake off the sudden chill. Something felt off. Couldn't put my finger on it. Maybe it was just the darkness playing tricks, or maybe I was more on edge than I realized. I shook my head, trying to clear it. Focus on sleep, that's what I needed. I pulled back the sheet, ready to dive into bed. It had been a long day, and all I wanted was to sink into the comfort of my mattress, let the soft sheets envelop me, and drift off into a peaceful slumber. The room was bathed in the soft, warm glow of the evening light, casting gentle shadows on the walls. Everything seemed perfectly normal, just another night in my cozy bedroom. And that's when I saw it. My heart skipped a beat, and a cold shiver ran down my spine. The serene atmosphere of the room shattered in an instant. My eyes widened in disbelief, struggling to comprehend the sight before me. It was as if time had slowed down, and every second stretched into an eternity. A shadow darker than the surrounding darkness stretched out on the mattress. My breath hitched. It wasn't just any shadow. It had a presence, a weight that seemed to press down on the bed. The contrast between the shadow and the dimly lit room was stark, making it stand out even more. I could feel my pulse quicken, the thudding of my heart loud in my ears. My eyes darted to the foot of the bed. I couldn't tear my gaze away, a mix of fear and curiosity compelling me to look closer. The dim light made it hard to see clearly, but I could make out the faint outline of something unusual. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Was it a trick of the light? Or was there something truly sinister lurking in the shadows? A long black tail snaked out from under the covers. It moved slowly, almost deliberately, as if it was aware of my presence. The sight of it sent a jolt of terror through me. This was no ordinary shadow. It was something alive, something that shouldn't be there. My thoughts were a whirlwind of confusion and fear. What was this creature? How had it gotten into my bed? And more importantly, what did it want? I stood frozen, unable to move, my mind grappling with the reality of the situation. The room, once a sanctuary of peace and comfort, had transformed into a place of dread and uncertainty. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to get as far away as possible, but my feet felt like they were glued to the floor. The tail continued to move, a silent reminder of the unknown terror that lay beneath the sheets. I knew I had to do something, but what? The answer eluded me, lost in the fog of fear that clouded my mind. All I could do was stand there staring at the dark, writhing shape and hope that whatever it was, it wouldn't come any closer. Fear, cold and sharp, shot through me. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My mind screamed at me to run, to do something, anything, but my body refused to obey. I was rooted to the spot, trapped in a nightmare. A flicker of movement, the tail twitched. It was subtle, barely noticeable, the kind of movement that you might miss if you blinked or looked away for just a second. But in that moment, it was as if the entire room held its breath, waiting for what would come next. The air was thick with anticipation, and every shadow seemed to hold a secret. But in the stillness of the room, it was deafening. The silence was not just an absence of sound, but a presence in itself, pressing down on me, making every tiny noise magnified. The creak of the floorboards, the rustle of fabric, even the sound of my own breathing seemed amplified in the oppressive quiet. My heart pounded against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the silence. Each thud echoed in my ears, a reminder of my own vulnerability. The shadow shifted and I felt a chill run down my spine. It was as if the darkness itself was alive, watching me, waiting for me to make a move. I could feel the weight of unseen eyes on me, and it took all my willpower to stay still. And for a moment I could have sworn I saw a pair of glowing eyes. They were there, just at the edge of my vision, flickering in and out of existence like a mirage. I blinked and they were gone, leaving me to wonder if they had ever been there at all. The room seemed to close in around me, the walls pressing in, the shadows growing darker and more oppressive. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves, but the air felt thick and heavy, like trying to breathe through a wet cloth. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to get out of that room, but I was rooted to the spot, unable to move. The flicker of movement had been so small, so insignificant, and yet it had changed everything. The room that had seemed merely dark and quiet was now a place of danger, a place where anything could happen. I strained my ears, listening for any sound, any hint of what might be lurking in the shadows, but there was nothing, just the oppressive silence and the pounding of my own heart. I knew I had to move, had to do something, but fear held me in its grip, paralyzing me. The glowing eyes, whether real or imagined, had left their mark on me, a reminder that in the darkness, nothing is ever truly as it seems. I took another deep breath, forcing myself to take a step forward. The floor creaked under my weight and I froze, waiting for something to happen. But the room remained silent, the shadows still. I took another step and then another, each one a battle against the fear that threatened to overwhelm me. The flicker of movement had been just that, a flicker, but it had set off a chain reaction, a cascade of fear and uncertainty that I was still trying to navigate. As I moved through the room, I kept my eyes on the shadows, watching for any sign of movement, any hint of those glowing eyes. But there was nothing, just the darkness and the silence and the memory of that flicker of movement that had changed everything. Gone. And then, just as quickly as it appeared, it was gone. The shadow, the tail, the eyes all vanished. The room was empty, bathed in the soft glow of the moon. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, my body still buzzing with adrenaline. Just a dream. Had I imagined it? Was it the stress, the fatigue, playing tricks on my mind? I ran a hand through my hair, trying to make sense of what I'd seen. There was no logical explanation. I crawled into bed, my mind racing. The room was dimly lit, casting long shadows that seemed to dance on the walls. The clock on the nightstand showed midnight, but sleep was the furthest thing from my mind. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing in the silence of the room. I could feel the weight of the night pressing down on me, a suffocating blanket of dread. The events of the night replayed in my head, each time more vivid than the last. I saw the shadowy figure again, its form shifting and changing, never quite solid. It was as if it was made of smoke, slipping through my fingers whenever I tried to grasp it. The fear in my eyes was unmistakable, a reflection of the terror that gripped my soul. I tossed and turned, trying to shake the images from my mind, but they clung to me like a second skin. I tried to convince myself it was a dream, a figment of my imagination. But the more I thought about it, the more real it seemed. The details were too clear, too precise to be a mere figment. I shook my head in disbelief, my hand resting on my forehead as if trying to hold my thoughts together. The room around me felt oppressive, the darkness closing in, creating an eerie atmosphere that only heightened my anxiety. But deep down, a seed of doubt remained. It was a small, nagging thought that refused to be silenced. What if it wasn't a dream? What if the shadowy figure was real? I looked around the room nervously, my eyes darting to every corner, searching for any sign of movement. The shadows seemed to shift and change, playing tricks on my mind. I could feel my pulse quicken, the fear taking root and growing stronger with each passing moment. A chilling whisper that sent shivers down my spine. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it was there. A voice that seemed to come from the very walls of the room, whispering secrets and fears that I didn't want to hear. Goosebumps rose on my skin, a physical manifestation of the terror that gripped me. The whispering grew louder, more insistent, as if trying to break through the barrier of my rational mind. What if it was real? The question echoed in my mind, a relentless drumbeat that refused to be silenced. I could see the shadowy figure looming over the bed, its form dark and menacing. My eyes were wide with fear, unable to look away from the apparition. The room seemed to close in around me, the walls pressing in, the darkness suffocating. I could feel my breath coming in short, shallow gasps, my heart racing as if trying to escape my chest. The fear was overwhelming, a tidal wave that threatened to drown me. I knew I had to face it, to confront the doubt that lingered in the corners of my mind. But how? How could I fight something that might not even be real? The question hung in the air, unanswered as the night stretched on, endless and unforgiving.